Hey Joe, how's it going today?
Hey Emmy, I'm doing well, but honestly, I had a rough morning. I couldn't stop thinking about something I said yesterday, and it was really bothering me. You ever get that feeling?
Oh, all the time. You mean when you keep replaying a conversation in your head, wondering if you said something wrong?
Exactly, I was overanalyzing every little detail, and it just made me more stressed.
You know what? That's actually a great topic for today. Overthinking. I think a lot of people struggle with this, so let's talk about it.
Yes, let's start by figuring out how to even know when you're overthinking because sometimes we don't even realize it.
Right. Overthinking is tricky because it can feel like we're just being careful or preparing for something, but in reality, it's holding us back. If you find yourself constantly replaying past conversations, imagining the worst possible outcomes, or struggling to make decisions, then you're probably overthinking.
That makes so much sense. I know for me, when I send a message to someone and they take too long to reply, my brain immediately starts making up scenarios. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? When in reality, they're probably just busy.
Exactly. Our minds tend to fill in the blanks with negative thoughts, even when there's no real reason to worry. It's like our brains are trying to protect us, but instead, they're just making us anxious.
And sometimes overthinking stops us from making decisions at all. Like, I remember wanting to buy a new phone once, but I kept researching and comparing every single detail until I got so overwhelmed that I just gave up.
That's a great example. It's like analysis paralysis. You overthink so much that you don't take any action. But why do we do this to ourselves?
That's a good question. I think one big reason is fear. We're afraid of making mistakes, looking stupid, or choosing the wrong thing. So we try to think our way out of any possible bad situation.
Yes, and sometimes it's perfectionism. Some people want to make the perfect choice, say the perfect thing, or avoid making any mistakes at all. So they keep thinking and thinking, but never actually do anything.
Another reason is that we like to feel in control. If we don't know what's going to happen, we try to prepare for every single outcome, even if it's unrealistic.
That's so true. And social media makes it worse. We see people posting their perfect lives, and we start overthinking our own choices, wondering if we're doing enough.
And the worst part is, it doesn't actually help. Overthinking makes us feel stuck, stressed, and exhausted.
Right, it can even affect our relationships. If we overthink what people say or do, we might take things personally that weren't even meant that way. Like if a friend doesn't text back right away, we assume they're mad at us, when really, they're just busy.
Yeah, and it stops us from enjoying the moment. Instead of living our lives, we're trapped in our heads, worrying about things that don't even exist yet.
That's why it's so important to learn how to stop overthinking. And luckily, there are some really helpful ways to do that.
So, what can we do about it?
One of the first things is to recognize when you're overthinking. Just being aware of it can help you stop before it spirals out of control.
Yeah, and asking yourself, will this matter in a week or a month, can help put things in perspective.
Another great way to stop overthinking is to take action. If you're stuck in your thoughts, just do something small to move forward instead of staying in your head.
That's a good point, and sometimes you just need a distraction. Go for a walk, listen to music, or do something creative instead of sitting there overanalyzing.
Right, practicing mindfulness is another great trick. When you focus on the present moment instead of all the what ifs, your mind has less room for unnecessary thoughts.
And writing things down helps, too. If you're overwhelmed with thoughts, putting them on paper can make them feel more manageable.
I also love the idea of setting a worry time. Give yourself 10 minutes to think about whatever is stressing you out, but once that time is up, move on.
Oh, I like that, and I think accepting that you can't control everything is a big one. Some things will always be uncertain, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, focus on what you can do. That way, you're using your energy in a productive way instead of just making yourself anxious.
This has been such a helpful conversation. Overthinking is something we all struggle with, but now we have some solid tools to deal with it.
Totally. And now let's hear from Lili with today's vocabulary breakdown.
Hey everyone! Here are 10 useful words from today's episode. Overthinking. Overthinking is when you think about something too much or for too long. It often leads to stress or anxiety because you're replaying situations in your head. For example, if you keep thinking about something you said earlier, that's overthinking. Analyzing. When you analyze something, you carefully examine it to understand it better. It's like looking at all the details. But sometimes, when we overanalyze, it leads to overthinking and makes things feel more complicated than they actually are. Paranoia. Paranoia is when you have irrational fears, like thinking people are talking about you behind your back, even though there's no evidence to support it. Overthinking can make you feel paranoid about situations that aren't as bad as they seem. Perfectionism. Perfectionism is when you feel like everything has to be perfect and you can't make any mistakes. While aiming for high standards can be good, it can also lead to overthinking and frustration because nothing ever feels perfect enough. Analysis paralysis. This happens when you overanalyze a situation to the point where you can't make a decision. You're so focused on getting every detail right that you end up stuck and not taking any action at all. Worry time. Worry time is a technique where you give yourself a set amount of time, like 10 minutes, to focus on your worries. Once the time is up, you move on and try not to dwell on it anymore. It's a great way to stop overthinking from taking over. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being in the present moment and paying attention to your thoughts without judgment. It's a great way to stop yourself from overthinking by focusing on what's happening right now instead of worrying about the future or the past. Perspective. Perspective is the way you see things. When you shift your perspective, you can often see that a problem isn't as big as you thought. It helps you realize that things aren't as bad as they seem when you're caught up in overthinking. Distraction. A distraction is anything that takes your mind off your worries. Sometimes the best way to stop overthinking is to distract yourself with something fun or relaxing, like going for a walk or listening to music. Perfection. Perfection is the state of being flawless or without mistakes. But as we learned today, trying to be perfect all the time can actually make you more stressed and lead to overthinking. Sometimes it's okay to embrace imperfection. Now, before we wrap up, I want to give you all a challenge. Think about one thing you've been overthinking recently. Maybe it's a decision, a conversation, or even just a small worry. Now, take one action, just one, to move forward. Maybe that means writing it down, making a decision, or simply telling yourself, "It's okay, I don't need to worry about this anymore." Try it and see how it feels.
That's a great challenge, Lili. Overthinking won't go away overnight, but every small step helps.
And don't forget, you're not alone. We all struggle with this, but the more we practice, the better we get at managing our.
Absolutely. So, if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend who might need to hear this too.
And let us know what's one thing you're working on overthinking less. Leave us a comment or message us on social media.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.